Do you know the giddy feeling when you're done with a project and for once, and I can't stress this enough, for once you really love how it turned out? That is me at this very moment, and it's why I made a video about it, at least partially. In case you want to build this little diorama yourself, I have taken photos of each part except the gazebo, which I totally forgot, as it was the literal last piece of this whole thing to come together. The print versions of this can be found on my Patreon. Yeah, I know it seems kind of scummy to do it like that, but I want to live off my art I'm making, and this project seems like a nice way to introduce you to it. I painted these on rather thick watercolor paper, as you can see here with the gazebo, or however you pronounce that I recorded myself at least partially painting here. You can of course do it with thinner paper, but it won't stand up as securely as with thick paper, so keep that in mind. Once that's done, get to cutting it out. I use a very sharp X-Acto knife and took my time with it. Trust me, that structure was the easiest to cut. The tree and the other greenery was a pain, but it looks so good. As I'm a bit of a nitpicker, I got a bit more of the paint and colored the edges as well. I didn't want any of the whites to show. You can skip this step if you like to. Then with some scrap carton, just glue on some little L pieces and let it adhere completely. While I'm painting the box part of the diorama, let me tell you of the scene itself. It is very late in the story of Isar's Vengeance, the comic I'm working on, and I don't like to spoil anything already, but let me read you the part I have prepared for this scene in particular. The ballroom was bright, bathing the off-white walls in a golden color, making everything look warmer than they usually were. Isar looked around, looking for familiar faces. The people she made eyes with looked away abruptly, and she was just confused. She sighed, feeling at a loss. She had been feeling like that for a long time now, especially when she was let alone. Thank the heavens I'm not alone most of the time, Isar thought as she looked for her guardian, who was supposed to meet her. As she slowly walked towards the doors leading to the garden, wanting to look outside, to look at the sky with a desire she couldn't quite put her finger on, she saw the tall man slightly bowing down to her. "Milady, I looked all over. Would you care to join me?" he asked with a slight blush on his face. She smiled as she saw that he almost clumsily hid a bunch of flowers behind his back. "Sure, no one else seems to keep me company anyway." Just as she was reaching to hold his hand, she could swear she felt something in the bushes. Something staring at her. She looked over but saw only the garden as the sun slowly began to set. But I have to cut it here to avoid any spoilers, despite wanting me to continue so bad. Here you see me patching up the horrible job of me painting the resin-covered doors. I didn't like how flimsy they were, so I had covered them in a very thin layer of resin, but botched it badly. I'm just not good with resin, not yet. So the flowers are partially here to cover it up, but on the other hand, I like how they look together. Before I give Bohan his L piece to stand on, I decided to glue him onto the bush. And before I started trying out where to put anything, I glued those cardboard pieces on all the pieces. Especially with the characters, I tested if they stood straight, which was super awkward with Isar herself. So do be careful about that. I first glued the door frame into place with the hot glue to have it as a reference where everything should go. I had after all painted the box too big to give me the luxury to play around with the pieces as I wished. Then I proceeded to glue on the doors at the right angle and all the other pieces, but yeah, my camera died, and so I'm sorry that you can't see that. But you can arrange it as you like. You can skip parts, you can add parts, it's completely up to you. There was nothing much to see anyway. I just mostly put stuff into place, checking if it looked good, and just glued it with regular old PVA glue. Here I just show you the peeling I did for the layer of the background. I'm not good at watercolors yet, but I'll get there eventually. I hope. As a final touch, I used some generic watercolor pencils to add just a tad more details and glued that into the box with plenty of hot glue as well. I had some rests of thin wood at home and covered the ugly cardboard with that and painted it almost the same color as the floor of the ballroom. And I must say, I'm in love.
It's shiny. Some parts at least. Oh, that poor Bohan.